All right, so I want to talk about Biden's $2 trillion infrastructure plan. He's got $213 billion allocated over the next 15 years to housing for low to middle income folks. That portion of the plan, I think it's great. You know, Biden has said that this is essentially a kind of a once-in-a-lifetime injection of capital for infrastructure improvements, and he's got all kinds of stuff in there. The question is it the right time? But while that's happening, you also have a group of, and so go online, research that. We'll see what happens there. But at the same time, you've got this group of Democrats, Bernie Sanders, again, leading the charge, proposing getting rid of the so-called step up in basis and taxing the capital gains of unsold assets at death. So I want to stay here for just a quick moment, because some of these things are going to have an impact. Frankly, I kind of doubt it's going to get passed. You know that Republicans aren't going to give any support to this. But the current rules let assets like stocks and real estate pass to heirs without capital gains tax on their appreciation in value. So assets also pass to heirs at current market prices instead of what the owner acquired it for. This is what's known as the step up in basis. So I've got a quote from Bernie Sanders. Hopefully this doesn't fire you up too much here on this Easter weekend, but it says, "It's absurd that our tax code allows many of our country's wealthiest people to get away with never paying a cent in taxes on millions or even billions in capital gains income, while working people pay taxes on every check they receive." And that's the kind of statement that it triggers people. But the bill also includes rules to prevent the use of trusts to avoid the tax. So there's a lot of fine print here. But if you tack that on to, the Democrats' plan to end things like 1031 tax-deferred exchanges, which is an incredible tool for deferring, you can't avoid, but deferring capital gains, raising taxes on higher income earners and corporations. And you start to see how they intend to make up the ground on the trillions and trillions of dollars that they're spending this year. So I think as you start to see things like prescription drugs and gas and groceries and interest rates, which we saw rise in March, a pretty considerable amount, by the way. It went from basically below 3 to 3.4 was the national average. As these things start to climb, it's going to push people further and further away from being able to afford housing. Everything is becoming more expensive. The question is the economy keeping up? Are wage increases keeping up? Can we absorb that? If you look at just the cost of living right now, everything's going up. We're going to reach the breaking point at some point. Of course, the question is when. Is that 6 months from now? Is that a year from now? 2 years from now? Well, you've got two major things at play here. You've got just what's happening nationally and the overall, just 30,000 foot view of the economics. But then you also have to take into consideration what's happening here locally. And I'll tell you, I was getting my car serviced at Baker Motors earlier in the week. Talked to my guy, Jay Rose, great guy, by the way. If you need a car, give him a buzz. He wasn't expecting that shout out, but he's a good guy. I like him. Anyways, he's talking to me and he said, if I talk to 5 people in a day, 4 out of 5 will be from Virginia, Maryland, New York, and New Jersey. That we just have such a massive amount of people relocating to Charleston for a variety of reasons. One, it's just an awesome place to live, right? We can all agree on that. You've got favorable taxation. If you're an investor, it's a landlord-friendly state. If you can work from home, why not enjoy working, somewhere where you also enjoy living there? A lot of people are getting out of the crazy busy city life, and you look at millennials that are moving down here. You're looking at people that have businesses that either have been sold or that don't require them to be in that specific location that can be, done virtually. We have a lot of folks moving here is the point. So Charleston in and of itself is a hot spot. It is a hub that people are moving to, which means that our economics are just going to look different than what you're going to read or hear or watch when you're doing research on the national real estate market and just what's happening economically in the U.S. So take that into consideration when you're kind of forming your view of what's going to happen here in this local market, and also understand that there's just a lot at play here that there are plenty of things that could go wrong. But as this just cost of living, as the cost of everything continues to go up, as interest rates go up, prices will stabilize at some point. The market will stabilize. Real estate is cyclical, just like anything else for the most part. We're going to see the pendulum start to lose momentum and then return to center, meaning it will become a more balanced market. But I'll tell you, we need a lot more inventory before something like that is going to happen. So that's why I don't think it's going to happen very quickly. So that's just kind of my view of what's going on in the nation, and then of course here locally in Charleston as it relates to the housing market, which should kind of help you better understand that timing the market is incredibly challenging. Real estate is a lagging indicator of the economy. We won't really know we've hit the top until we're about 6 months past it. That's usually the way it works. Now, if you're really well connected, you've got the ear to the ground, you just understand what's happening in the world, which is what, of course, we try to do on this program to help you understand what you should be doing and thinking as it relates to housing. You can get lucky and you can time the market, and maybe it's a little bit more than luck. Maybe you intended to do that, but for the general person that maybe doesn't listen to the show, that's just kind of looking online, trying to figure out what to do and when to do it. There is a lot of luck involved with timing the market. So for now, I think we're going to see appreciation. Inventory is still a big problem. Prices will go up. But if interest rates start to peak up in the 4s and 5s, that's going to be the brake applied to this fast-moving train that will start to stabilize things. And so what happens in a market like this is that agents, when they put a property on the market, they'll have a conversation with the seller and say, well, how much would you like to sell it for? Let's just come up with a scenario. Let's say $400,000. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna give you an example here because I had a conversation with a seller last week that's now under contract. They hired us, and they talked to 2 other agents. And this was the approach that both agents used. This is just kind of how this worked out. This is not uncommon. The agent walks through the home. They walk through the house. They make their notes. They talk about the condition of the property. They talk about everything they're going to do to market it, and then it comes to price. And sellers, intelligent sellers want the agent to tell the seller how much it's worth. But what agents will do, because they've gotten very crafty, is they'll say, so, have you guys identified a price where, if you can't get that amount, then it just doesn't make sense to sell right now? It's a nice question, but it's essentially, hey, tell me your bottom line. Which I think most sellers, they might tell you that, but that we as real estate agents should be doing our job, which is, here's how much I think your home will sell for. Here's how much I think it's worth. Here's the math on this. Here's the approach that I used to come up with this specific valuation based on comparison to other properties on the market, under contract, and sold in the past 6 months. I've made adjustments for the things that your home has or doesn't have that the others did or did not. And this is what I think it's worth. This is what I think it will appraise for. Now, having said that, the difference between appraised value and what somebody is willing to pay for it, that difference, that gap gets bigger the less inventory there is. Buyers become a little more desperate. They become a little more willing and competitive to pay a price above that amount to secure the house. Because they know if they don't and they can't find something else, then 2-3 months from now, they'll be paying that price anyways. So they might as well lock it up now. Obviously, at some point in time, that mentality is going to have to stop, right? We can't continue to play leapfrog pricing in this market. But I think in this market, agents have gotten really kind of lazy as it relates to pricing. It's, well, hey, let's try this price. And you know what? If it doesn't sell in the first few weeks, then let's just adjust the price downward. I guess we missed the mark. And that literally just becomes the only tool in their tool belt is I'll put it in the MLS. All the other agents will see it. All the people that are, all the agents that are sending properties to their buyers, those buyers will see it. They'll ask their agent to go and see it in person. It might generate some inquiries online. And if we don't have offers within the first 2 weeks, then let's just reduce the price. That is the tool in their tool belt. That is what they do. I'm here to tell you that you should be expecting more as a seller. You should be expecting the agent to proactively find buyers for your home, to proactively assess the value in the proper way and say, this is what it's worth. This is what we can support. Now, if we can get above that, fantastic. But here's the analysis. And that's what's missing right now. What agents will do is they'll just print off everything that's sold in the neighborhood and say, oh, you're about $250 per square foot or whatever the amount is. And so, yeah, I think we price around there, then we should be close to the mark. And hey, if we don't sell, then we can always just reduce the price. It's just a very lazy way of pricing property. And it's something that can cost you money as a seller. So just be wary of that if you're selling your home and when it comes time for the analysis and that part of the conversation. Like I sit down with my homeowners right next to me. I show them the comps. I show them exactly what I do when I make adjustments for comps, when I come up with what I believe the value of that home to be. And the challenging part in a market like this where properties sell so quickly and there's so much demand is it hides some of that negligence among agents. We have had incredible sales stats on my team since for the past 16 years that I've been selling real estate. I know how to price properties. It's what causes my homes to sell for more money and faster than other agents that list property. And I'm not saying that to boast. I'm just saying that you need to still master the really important part of your job, which is determining how much something is worth. And in a market like this, where demand is through the roof, it can overshadow that agent's negligence and just lack of experience. So if you want to know how much your home is truly worth, you're thinking about selling, you're thinking about buying, just things we've talked about so far, feel free to give me a call, 843-400-8009. That's 843-400-8009. Or check us out online, listingsincharleston.com. Stick around because we've got one more important thing to discuss, and that's these offers that are designed to be renegotiated and how you can kind of prevent that from happening. So stick around right here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com.
More stimulating talk on Real Estate Matters with Brian Beatty next on 1250 WTMA.